here as training camp rolls on. We are now in day 3 officially, and a lot has happened in the last couple of days, and I'm sure there will be plenty for us to talk about here over the next 30 minutes.
And I know we don't want to sound like a broken record, but we're going to start with cornerbacks because, again, they're down yet another player, at least for the portion of practice that we just saw. Shaq Griffin, cornerback, not practicing right now. We don't know if it's preventative or what, but he left yesterday. Not looking so good.
No, it's not looking great right now. I mean, hopefully it's not as bad as what we've seen with Mekhi Blackmon, obviously, who was put on injured reserve with the ACL. But Shaq Griffin, meanwhile, he left yesterday's practice, did not return. He did leave with medical personnel, but today we have not seen him out on the field with everybody else, at least not yet. But at this point, we saw the players take the field at around 1:45, so they've been out there for over an hour today, and we have yet to see number one on the field. So highly doubtful at this point that he joins practice late. So it appears that Shaq Griffin is going to be out for today's practice with an undisclosed injury. We believe it to be lower body, but at this point, we don't know the severity of that injury. Hopefully it's nothing too serious.
So let's start with the good news, too. When you do see players like Byron Murphy Jr. and see other guys that are going to be relied upon coming out, staying the course, being strong, that is good news when it comes to Brian Flores' defense. He wants consistency, and so far I think he's been very patient with not having that right now.
I mean, he's going to have to deal with in terms of what the cards are dealt to you. You're going to have to play the hand that you're dealt, as they like to say. But Najee Thompson is another name on the cornerback list who is not practicing. He's injured at the moment. And then you have to start wondering, okay, at what point, depending on how serious the injury is to Shaq Griffin, what point does Kwesi have to say, we're going to have to wait a couple of weeks here. Maybe guys get cut from other teams. Maybe wait till the end of camp to see who's out there and available. Maybe they look at the trade market if things start to get dire. But you also have to look at your own roster, and a name that I'm looking at right now is Andrew Booth Jr. And when is it going to happen for Andrew Booth Jr.? This is a big year for Andrew Booth Jr., a guy who was taken in the second round a couple of years ago, and it just hasn't really clicked so far yet for him. And now his team needs him in terms of depth, in terms of availability. They're going to need a guy like him to step up while Shaq Griffin is out. We don't know how long that's going to be. While Mekhi Blackmon is out, we do know that's going to be for a very long time. So I'm looking right at Andrew Booth Jr., Dawn, and then thinking to myself, when is it going to happen for this guy? And if it doesn't happen this year, I'm not really sure what to say and what to make of the rest of his NFL career, to be honest.
Well, and to be honest with you, he's also dealt with injuries in the past, too. So he's kind of coming back. So this is his chance to grab that brass ring because you have to step up and see what you can do. They also signed 2 other guys that came in yesterday. But the big question is, should they also be looking, like you said, for a name? And should they be looking now anyway to make some sort of a deal with that depth? Because Khyree is gone. Blackmon is gone for, we know, the whole year for him. Even if that works out with Shaq is just a tweak or not, you're still 2 down with uncertainty coming in, and it's day 3 of camp.
Yeah, for me, if I'm in the position of the front office right now, I'm certainly concerned. I'm alert at what's going on with that position group. I'm probably not doing anything just yet. I might wait until the first preseason game to really pull the trigger on a move if need be. But, the time is now, certainly, to be scouring the market and looking around and thinking to yourself, what do we have to do? Because we are certainly short in that cornerback room. And that's really an area of concern for this team right now as we rapidly approach the first preseason game of the year here in just a few weeks.
And I do know Brian Flores, he really likes to say that his guys have to be versatile, right? If you can only do one thing, he says, you need to be very, very good at that one thing. So you look at the rest of the DB rooms. There are guys that can maybe be moved around, picked up the slack a little bit, but, you need guys to be at their positions. You can't move a Harrison Smith out of what he's doing. He can't do it all.
No.
Cam Bynum is coming along. You have Josh Metellus, but you need someone that can be up against these premier receivers in the NFL to shut them down.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And, thankfully, if you want to look for a bright side, thankfully this is happening early in camp as opposed to later when your back might really be up against the wall. So now you have a little time to try to gather yourself here and think who's out there, what type of trades that could be generated if need be, if it gets to that point. I'm not pressing the panic button just yet, but I am also a realist, and I realize the situation right now is going from bad to worse in terms of depth, and we all know that depth is so vital in this league, because if you lose a guy here or there and you don't have a guy who can come in and replace him and do at least perhaps 80 to 90% of the work as the starter might do, you're in a world of hurt. You're in a world of hurt. So, again, for Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, I'm paying attention to what's out there right now, no doubt. But I'm going to let it sit just for the time being. Perhaps next week is the time where they start looking at that.
And they don't have a full roster of players out on the field today, because today is also out in Maryland, the funeral service for Khyree Jackson. So we're going to go down a list of the names of the people who are not here today, and that includes head coach. So it's being run by Mike Pettin today, but Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, Brian Flores, Matt Daniels, Durante Jones, Dallas Turner, Taki Taimani, and Deshaun Jones. So, like I said, Mike Pettin is running the practice today. And I won't say that there's only a select people that wanted to be there, but they have to be smart about training camp. And when you see players like Dallas Turner, who was his teammate at Alabama before he transferred and before he went to Oregon, who's really good friends with them. You need to allow those players, and I'm glad they did, to go out there and honor their friend out in Maryland.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And we see the big letters of KJ out here on the practice field right behind us. And, yeah, of course, everybody needs their own time to grieve and mourn. It's certainly a very tragic situation that the Vikings are dealing with as training camp rolls around. But, in terms of Brian Flores, he had Khyree Jackson, because he was in his room, in the defensive room, got to know him a little bit. It's certainly a tragic situation. Brian Flores speaking on the matter not long ago. Let's hear what Coach Flores had to say.
We spent, quite a bit of time with Khyree during the draft process, starting at the Senior Bowl, meeting him there, spending time with him there, then Zooms, 30 visit, and then obviously when we got him here, we were really excited about him. I know me personally, I watched every snap of him last year at Oregon, so I was really excited about coaching him, getting him here, and I think he had a bright future. So it's still something that gives me a pit in my stomach, still something that I'm dealing with internally, like this entire organization is, like I know his family and friends are. But I hope they can take a little comfort in knowing that he certainly impacted a lot of people in a very positive way. He's going to be missed.
So there's many different ways they will indeed honor him. You mentioned the initials out on the field. They're going to have KJ decals on their helmets this year. The coaches will wear pins with those initials on it. And they set up his locker not only at this facility here at TCO, but they're setting up a locker in honor of Khyree at the stadium as well. And Dallas Turner, like I mentioned, was a good friend of his, and he has his nameplate above his own here at the facility at TCO, because just to remember, he says sometimes he talks to God and he talks to him, and he just feels that Khyree is shining down on him. And he said, quote, "As long as I'm alive, I'll rep his name." So really touched deeply, and I'm glad that Brian Flores said he's been, knowing Khyree ever since the Senior Bowl, has been with him quite a long time. So a small time in terms of, yes, the draft till now, but it was that pre-draft and getting to know personality. And Brian Flores also said what he has gone through in his whole life, and community college, and then being transferred, and the things that he had to fight through. He was a clerk at a grocery store, then got back into football. He said those characteristics and those traits, that kind of made me love him even more. So when he's that type of guy, that's why the strong impact is felt on the team. And Kevin O'Connell was actually speaking today at the funeral in Maryland, and this is part of what he had to say. He said the real way to honor Khyree is working to be the best version of ourselves, knowing tomorrow isn't promised. So really striking a chord from head coach, administration, all the way down.
And you mentioned in just a short amount of time that he was a member of the Minnesota Vikings. It is very clear that he made an impact on this team, not just with the coaching staff, but with the players as well. And it's a very sad story it's a very sad story. It's a very tragic story. I know that the Minnesota Vikings have lost a football player and a teammate and a friend, but, somebody has lost a son. And it's just a very, very sad and unfortunate situation. Someone's life cut just far too soon, so young. And it's just a very sad story all around. And, I wish we weren't sitting here talking about this, but, these things happen in life. And hopefully that everybody gets the closure that they need beginning today with the funeral. And as we were saying, the Vikings are doing everything they can to possibly honor Khyree Jackson as the season moves on.
And when the season starts, they will also honor him with a game. His family will be flying in, and then they're hoping to honor him with his play. So celebrate his life and try to move forward and always keep that KJ along with them. So We're going to hit a quick break. When we're going to come back, we've got much more to talk about. Like I mentioned, people at the top not here, Mike Pettin running the practice, but there's so much. We've got J.J. McCarthy will be speaking this afternoon. He'll come to the podium. We heard from Sam Darnold yesterday, so we'll talk offensive side of the ball as well. Much more when Pierre and I come back. Welcome back to Vikings Training Camp Live. I'm Dawn Mitchell along with Pierre Nugent. Now, Pierre, we've been talking quite a bit already at the top of the show about cornerbacks specifically, but the defense. But when it comes to offense today, we will hear from J.J. McCarthy, heard from Sam Darnold yesterday. There's other quarterbacks in the room. There's Nick Mullins, there's Jaron Hall. But to see how those two, how it will shake out, who will be the backup quarterback? Will it be a Nick Mullins? Will they save J.J.? A lot to look at the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's kind of the exciting part about training camp, too. And let's not forget that Jaron Hall made a start last year in Atlanta, and he was anointed the starter before he got knocked out in that game. Did come back later in the season, made another start. But, yeah, right now, let's make no mistake about it. I mean, this appears to be a two-headed race for the starting position. I know that Sam Darnold has already almost, I'm not going to say been fully granted autonomy in QB1, but they are expecting Sam Darnold to start the season as the starter. J.J. McCarthy, I know everybody has big, high expectations for J.J. McCarthy. He was drafted 10th overall. I certainly understand the high expectations. But, Nick Mullins is a guy who has played in this league, put up some good numbers, especially in a Vikings uniform, and has done his thing. And he's not going to be giving that backup job away without a fight. I mean, he's certainly playing for a roster spot. He's certainly playing for minutes and time and all that stuff. So when it comes to J.J. McCarthy, I'm not going to sit here and panic if he's, for whatever reason, not listed as number 2 on the depth chart. there's time. These things take time. And you know, we saw Nick Mullins traded to Minnesota during the preseason a couple of years ago. Will that happen again? I don't know. You know, but I'm not going to panic if J.J. McCarthy isn't immediately at least number 2 in the quarterback room.
You know, the good thing that you brought up, too, is let's not panic. And he's not number 2. There's another word there, especially when it comes to rookies, yet, because so many teams we have seen in the past rush these draft picks, you know, anoint them as the next coming. If you can, we all know that JJ can handle the pressure. We saw what he can do, but the NFL is a different beast.
Yeah,
so you
entirely.
have to make sure you can bring him along, get him a taste, make sure that he's okay with the offense, make sure he's okay with the speed of the NFL game. They said they were talking about working with his footwork from the get-go. So there's a lot to, and when it comes to Sam Darnold, he's not willing to give that up very easily either. That pseudo number 1 right now, because no one's been officially named, but you go by that trajectory, he's the number 1. People just assume JJ's the number 2 because to be honest, we haven't heard from Nick Mullins or Jaron Hall yet,
no, we
right?
haven't.
So we're talking to JJ McCarthy for a reason. He's the top draft pick. See how long he is before he is anointed, but it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a fight. And I think JJ has a lot to prove in these next few weeks in order to get that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think he has everything in the world to prove. I mean, if I'm JJ McCarthy, even though he might say, no, I don't hear any of the outside noise, I think there was more than enough outside noise that really questioned whether or not JJ McCarthy could be a starter in this league, because everybody's pointed to the University of Michigan and said, look how many guys, NFL caliber players that this roster has. Did they really win a national title thanks to J.J. McCarthy? These are the conversations that have been taking place ever since last fall. I mean, is J.J. McCarthy the key that turns the engine for Michigan? I think a lot of people would argue that no, he wasn't. So now this is his opportunity to prove that it wasn't just the guys around him. He certainly was more than capable as well of leading Michigan to a national title. He's going to get his opportunity here in the NFL at some point or another. But, you know, I don't think anybody should be anointing him the starter or anointing him as the Vikings savior just yet. We have yet to see him play in a game. I mean, I'd like to see the guy play in a game first before I really make a decision about what he's going to be in the NFL. And heck, you know, to be honest with you, I'd like them to see him play multiple games, because you can't just tell from one game. So, you know, patience is going to be a big word with J.J. McCarthy.
And we haven't seen them yet in training camp, right? Going really against each other in pads with the schemes, any of that. That's going to shift its way and sift its way out for the rest of the coming days. We will know, is he going to hit someone on a slant? Is he going to hit someone in stride? What is the strength of his throws? How is his feet work? How is his feet working? Does he have happy feet? All of that. But when it comes to Sam Darnold, let's kind of double back to him a little bit. Sam always seems calm, cool, and collected. When we saw Kirk Cousins here in the same position, and he was talking about trying to learn the offense, and it was like, you know, like trying to drink through a hose, like just kind of coming at him.
Right.
Sam Darnold seems much more calm when talking about it. Now, I know he's been a starter before. He's been down this road. He's been in every single position, starting, knocked off, coming back, all that. It'll be interesting to see how quickly he does really grasp this playbook.
Sam Darnold has been one of the biggest mysteries to me over the last handful of years in this league, because, you know, leading up to the draft when he was taken 3rd overall by the New York Jets, a lot of people, myself included, watched him play at USC, and what I saw at USC, I thought to myself, this is a guy who is going to step into this league and play 10 to 12 years and be a starter, and you're not going to have to worry a single day of your life about Sam Darnold. That has not played out the way I thought and the way a lot of other people thought would play out in the NFL. You're bouncing from the Jets to Carolina to San Francisco, now getting another opportunity here with the Minnesota Vikings. But especially, you know, in practice, you see it. You see the flag. You see the talent. There is talent there. But you just can't really point your finger or put your finger on as to why it hasn't all come together for him. We talked in the first segment about Andrew Booth Jr., a guy who I think this is a big year for him. We're waiting to see if something clicks. You know, Sam Darnold, we may have gotten past that point at this point of his career. Maybe we're past that point. I don't think so. We're past that point just yet. But it's got to click. At what point does it click? At what point do we see this type of talent that was taken 3rd overall start to really show itself. Maybe Kevin O'Connell can be the quarterback whisperer and the best thing that's ever happened to Sam Darnold's career. That's certainly a possibility. I'm not ruling that out by any means. But, this is a big year for Sam Darnold. It's a big year for him.
Now, I'm not comparing him, but I'm just saying in this situation, he could become the next Nick Foles. Like, you don't have to be setting the world on fire if you've got good people to throw to, good people around you, good people in front of you. And, he even says he likes to manage the game well. I don't know how fans feel about a quarterback saying, I really think I managed the game well, but that's what you need if you're going to have an heir apparent waiting in the wings.
The other thing I would say too is, we always have to look at the situations, right? No disrespect, but the New York Jets have been a dumpster fire for over a decade now. Now, I know it's probably fair to say, well, why couldn't Sam Darnold elevate them out of that dumpster fire? I think that's a fair.
One person can't do it.
Yeah, one person can't do it alone. But, Sam Darnold certainly did not display the type of ability that could get the Jets out of the bottom of the AFC East. Carolina has been a mess over the last handful of years. So you have to look at the situations that Sam Darnold has been placed in and the talent that's been around him. Maybe with some extra talent, especially at wide receiver, at running back, that like they do here. Who knows? Maybe it's a different situation. Who knows? It could be a different situation. And I know Sam Darnold is eager to jumpstart his career again here in Minnesota. We heard from him not that long ago, and I know that he says, listen, this is a great situation for me to be in, and I just want to make the most of my opportunity.
Yeah, it's huge. Whenever you can spend that time off the field together, whether it's, watching film on a whiteboard, all that stuff. But I think just as important, is just spending, genuine time together outside the facility, or outside the field or off the field, just to be able to hang out and find stuff out about each other that you didn't know. And obviously I probably know a lot more about him now with Netflix, with the show, than he knows about me. But but it's been really cool, man, to just not only Justin, but the entire skill positions, the defense, everyone on offense. It's been fun to be able to be a part of this team now for a few months, and it really feels like home right now.
Oh, that old Netflix show. But Pierre, before we go to break, what did you learn from Justin Jefferson on the Netflix show? I mean, when you're learning a lot about your receiver that way, that's kind of fun.
I have to admit, I have not even seen the show. I'm not going to lie.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I have yet to see the show. I have been a little busy catching up on House of the Dragon. So I got to get receiver on my things to watch. While I'm having my downtime at home.
It's very funny. George Kittle is worth the price of admission to, and his little back and forth with Harrison Smith. I'm not even going to spoil it. It's classic Harrison Smith. So when we come back, we're going to have our final segment, wrap this up. So stick around, more from Vikings Training Camp Live when we come back. Welcome back to Vikings Training Camp Live. I'm Dawn Mitchell along with Pierre Nugent. Now, Pierre, the outside linebacker room, you look on paper and you're like, wow, 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 right? Grenard, Van Ginkel, you even see Dallas Turner. We saw Van Ginkel out on the field today, still working his way through, but coaches at the beginning of the week seemed really optimistic that, listen, we're going to take him along slow, but we're hoping with the trajectory he's on, he'll be good to go for the season. He brings a lot to the table, especially when those aforementioned two others are ready to go.
And he's a player that Brian Flores is awfully familiar with after his time in Miami. Andrew Van Ginkel spending all of his time as a Miami Dolphin before coming up here and signing with the Vikings. So in terms of Andrew Van Ginkel, one thing I'm very eager to see is what his production level looks like when he gets an increased workload, because he wasn't exactly a starter down in Miami. They had Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb down starting on end, so he was more of a spot duty guy. I'd say probably a little bit more of a spot duty guy, but I mean, he would come in a rotation and played awfully well. He was a great player for the Dolphins. So with added responsibility, added reps, added snaps, where does his production level go throughout the course of a 17-game season?
And now you also have Dallas Turner. He's a rookie, so all eyes are on Jonathan Grenard. He's just a beast. He's ready to roll. I'm really excited to see what he brings to the table. We know the camp's going to be great, but once that season hits, I want to see him unleashed.
Well, they're going to need him to be unleashed, because who is he replacing? Daniil Hunter. And then that's a hard man to replace. So that is the type of production that really you need to. It doesn't have to necessarily be one guy.
Yes.
But you have to be able to replicate the production that you got with Daniil Hunter, because let's be honest, Daniil Hunter is a world-type talent when he is healthy, and Minnesota's going to need that again from their outside linebackers.
Well, they certainly will. We're going to hit practice again after the show. We're going to hear from J.J. McCarthy. You can hear that later on Fox 9 tonight, and we'll see you back here for this on Monday. Thanks for joining us. For Pierre, I'm Dawn. We'll see you again on Monday for Vikings Training Camp Live.